The Serengeti woke beneath a sea of molten gold. The dawn spilled light across endless grasslands, where the morning mist clung to the earth like a fading dream. Herds of zebras stirred, wildebeests snorted nervously, and the distant cry of a fish-eagle pierced the stillness of the sky. In a secluded, rocky outcrop, tucked away from the gaze of predators and rivals, life began. A lioness lay panting, her golden flanks trembling with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with pride. Nestled against her belly were 3 tiny cubs, blind and helpless, their fur marked with faint rosettes that would one day fade into regal gold. One cub squirmed more than the others, wriggling toward the warmth of his mother. He was strong for his age, his tiny claws kneading instinctively as he searched for milk. His name would be Kiro. Outside the den, the sound of heavy paws approached. The king had returned. Baraka, Kiro's father, emerged from the tall grass, his mane glowing like fire in the sunlight. His roar shattered the silence, echoing across the plains, claiming the land as his own. Every ear turned, every heart trembled. This was the voice of dominance, of raw power. Kiro would one day understand that roar. He would feel it in his bones. He would carry it within him. But for now, he slept, dreaming in warmth, unaware that the path fate had carved for him was paved with blood, exile, and glory. Time passed, and the cubs opened their eyes to a world drenched in color. The savanna stretched endlessly beneath the burning sun. Herds grazed. Vultures spiraled in lazy circles overhead, and the air hummed with the buzzing of flies and the distant grunts of hippos in muddy pools. Kiro and his siblings, Nia and Jaro, tumbled among the grasses, their playful growls carried away by the wind. They stalked grasshoppers, wrestled with each other, and occasionally pounced on their mother's twitching tail. Savanna, their mother, was patient but firm, cuffing them when they strayed too far. "Stay close," her low rumble warned. The world was beautiful, yes, but danger hid behind beauty. When Baraka returned from patrol, Kiro froze in awe every time. His father was magnificent, muscles rippling under a golden coat, mane dark and thick like the night sky. When Baraka roared, the ground trembled. Even hyenas scattered when they heard it. To Kiro, Baraka was invincible, immortal, a god in flesh, but even gods can bleed. One crimson sunset, as vultures circled high and the wind whispered secrets through the grass, Baraka stood upon a hill, his mane flowing like a warrior's cloak. His amber eyes scanned the horizon. He smelled something on the wind, danger, and it was coming closer. They came at dusk, 2 rogue males, scarred and gaunt, with manes as wild as the storm clouds that gathered overhead. Sekou and Malik, brothers forged by hardship, united by hunger. They had wandered for years, living on scraps, nursing wounds and nursing ambition. Now they smelled opportunity. Baraka's pride was strong, but age had begun to creep into his bones, dulling the fire of his youth, and the rogues knew it. The first roar rolled across the plains like distant thunder, then another, louder, deeper. It was a challenge, primal and undeniable. Every creature in the savanna froze, listening. The sky darkened as if the earth itself held its breath. Baraka answered. His roar tore through the wind, defiant and furious. Savanna's heart clenched. She knew what was coming. That night, under a blood-red moon, the world erupted in violence. Baraka met the rogues in a storm of claws and teeth, the air filled with snarls and the stench of blood. Grass flattened under thrashing bodies. Kiro watched from the shadows of the rocks, his tiny body trembling as his father fought like a god, tearing, biting, roaring into the darkness. But the rogues were young, strong. 2 against 1, Baraka fell. His mane, once proud, was streaked with blood, his golden eyes dimmed under the weight of defeat. With a final roar, hoarse, broken, but unyielding, he fell to the earth. Kiro pressed against his mother, his tiny claws digging into her fur. He didn't understand. He only felt the cold creeping in the silence that followed the storm. When the rogues roared their victory, the night shook, and the world changed forever. The law of the wild is merciless. The new kings, Seku and Malik, had claimed the throne, but to secure it, they needed to erase the bloodline of Baraka. The cubs, Savanna knew this. She didn't wait. Under the cover of darkness, while the rogues feasted on the carcass of a zebra, she led her cubs into the night. The grass whispered as they moved, every sound a threat, every shadow a hunter. For days they wandered, hunger gnawed at their ellies, hyenas laughed in the dark, their glowing eyes stalking the edge of safety. Twice, Savanna drove them off, her flanks bleeding from their teeth. Water was scarce, food scarcer. Nia grew weak. Jaro stumbled when he walked. Kiro, though tired, refused to give in. Something burned inside him, a fire he couldn't name. But fate is cruel. One dawn, as vultures circled overhead, Nia lay still beneath an acacia tree. Her tiny body, once full of life, was silent. Jaro followed days later, claimed by starvation. When Savanna dug shallow graves in the dust, her throat rumbling a soft, broken hymn, Kiro pressed against her side, his eyes hard. He didn't cry. He couldn't. The fire inside had turned to steel. He would not die here. Months passed. Kiro grew lean and strong, his muscles honed by hardship. Savanna taught him to hunt, first hares, then warthogs, then gazelles. She taught him the silence of the stalk, the patience of the wait, the explosion of the kill. But she could not teach him immortality. One evening, when the sky burned with the colors of fire, Kiro returned from a hunt to find Savanna lying in the grass, her breaths shallow, her body gaunt. Age, hunger, and wounds had claimed her strength. "Live, my son," she whispered, her voice a fading breeze. "Live and roar." When the last light left her eyes, the savanna felt empty. Kiro stood alone. The days turned into seasons. He wandered as a nomad, a shadow of the plains. He fought off hyenas, outwitted leopards, and survived the endless drought. His mane grew, dark and thick. His shoulders widened, his frame towering. Kiro was no longer a cub. He was a lion, a king without a kingdom. But destiny whispered still, and destiny sounded like a roar. Kiro found them one crimson dawn, the rogues Seku and Malik, now ruling Baraka's old pride. They lounged in the grass, fat from years of dominance. Cubs played among the lionesses. Kiro's eyes burned. His father's blood cried out through his veins. He roared. The sound split the sky, shook the earth, sent birds screaming into the heavens. The rogues rose, their eyes wide with rage and fear. The battle was savage. Claws ripped flesh. Manes flew like torn banners. Seko lunged, and Kiro met him head-on, their roars colliding like thunder. Teeth sank, bones cracked, blood sprayed the grass. Malik joined, but Kiro fought like a storm unleashed, like the ghost of Baraka reborn. He crushed Seku beneath his weight, his jaws snapping over the rogue's throat until silence fell. Malik fled into the grass, his roars fading into the wind. The savanna trembled as Kiro stood among the ruins of battle, his chest heaving, his mane matted with blood, not his own. The lionesses approached, heads low in respect. The cubs hid behind their mothers, eyes wide with awe. Kiro lifted his head, and he roared. A sound that rolled across the plains like the voice of the earth itself. The king had returned. Seasons passed, the rains returned, and the land bloomed again. Under the shade of an acacia tree, lionesses lounged with new cubs tumbling in the grass. On a rocky hill, silhouetted against the setting sun, stood Kiro, the king of the savanna. His mane burned like gold, his eyes fierce and proud. As the wind carried his roar across the plains, the herds lifted their heads, even the hyenas fell silent. In the distance, storm clouds gathered, for the circle never ends. But tonight, under the dying light of the sun, Kiro ruled, and his father's spirit roared with him.